So for those of you who do not know much about Fort Hood is one of those places that if you're assigned there as Army personnel, your chances of dying via murder, being raped, assault, greatly go up. This isn't a recent issue. As a matter of fact, I believe it was a couple years ago, or maybe even a little bit further back than that, they actually speculated that there was a serial killer using that area as his hunting grounds. Yes, it is that bad. And yes, Fort Hood should be under a microscope if you're sitting there considering serial killers are out there.
I'd like to make several announcements related to the Fort Hood Independent Reviews. The Independent Review of Fort Hood's command climate, so this will be a longer statement. The murder of Specialist Vanessa Guillen shocked our conscience and brought attention to deeper problems. The initial investigation into Vanessa's death, coupled with high numbers of crimes and deaths at Fort Hood, has revealed a series of missteps and multiple failures in our system and within our leadership.
So as you see him read that statement, he goes into basically, what it's revealing. High crimes, failure in leadership. You see him move his arms out and then draw back in. You also see his face kind of tense up. That's the leadership. Now, those of you who've been paying attention to this know that there have been some changes.
For that reason, on July 30th, I directed the Undersecretary of the Army, Mr. James McPherson, to establish an independent review committee to review the culture at Fort Hood. Secretary McPherson, with the help of the League of United Latin American Citizens and some members of Congress, selected a diverse and highly experienced panel to determine whether the command climate and culture at Fort Hood and the surrounding military community reflected the Army's values, including safety, respect, inclusiveness, and a commitment to diversity in workplaces and communities free from sexual harassment and sexual assault. The panel, led by Chris Swecker, also included Jonathan Harmon, Carrie Ricci, Keta Rodriguez, and Jack White. You'll have an opportunity to speak with them shortly, and we will make their report available to the public. Over the course of 103 days, the panel surveyed 31,612 soldiers, interviewed 647 soldiers, and met with civic and elected leaders, local law enforcement leaders, and the local district attorneys. On November 9, the panel briefed the Army senior leaders and provided 9 findings and 70 recommendations. The findings of the committee identified major flaws with sexual harassment and assault response prevention program from implementation, reporting, and adjudication. Fundamental issues with Fort Hood Criminal Investigation Command field office activities that led to unaddressed problems on Fort Hood. And finally, a command climate at Fort Hood that was permissive of sexual harassment and sexual assault. Further, the committee made 70 recommendations to improve the following areas: overall sharp program structure, Fort Hood Criminal Investigation Field Office Command activities, Army missing soldier protocols, Fort Hood crime prevention and response activities, Army-wide command climate issues, and Fort Hood public affairs activities. The tragic death of Vanessa Guillen and a rash of other challenges at Fort Hood forced us to take a critical look at our systems, our policies, and ourselves. But without leadership, systems don't matter. This is not about metrics, but about possessing the ability to have the human decency to show compassion for our teammates and to look out for the best interests of our soldiers. This report, without a doubt, will cause the Army to change our culture. I have decided to accept all these findings in whole. In response,
He's putting emphasis in very good areas as far as appropriateness. So whatever the findings are, it has bothered him.
Well, good afternoon. We appreciate the work of the Fort Hood Independent Review Committee and the feedback that this report has given us. We own the results. And,
He's very weak. When you see that hand come up there and he says, we own the results, there's no strength in it. And what I mean by strength is when you see someone go, we own it, the muscles tighten. It's a jerk motion. It's literally like it's a jerk. It jerks, it stops, it jerks, it starts. And he gives nothing. There's no jerking. It's just like I put my hand up here and then I continue to speak from my pre-prepared written testimony. And when you think of a general, especially one that's got 4 stars on his shoulder, you think, that's a kick-ass. But he's really a kiss-ass.
We've asked a lot of the Army and of Fort Hood over the last 19 years during continuous deployments to combat. And we know in the Army that we are not perfect.
Even that little hand, we know in the Army that we are not perfect. Now, not that this guy is some bad person. He's probably a really nice guy. But nice guys don't win wars, they don't win fights, and they don't win culture wars. They get mowed down, they get pushed around, and they follow. This is political speaking. When you see someone like this, political, they're probably really nice, but he's politically speaking.
But what makes us the greatest Army in the world is that we recognize where we must change. We acknowledge our issues and we fix them. Prior to coming here, I talked to Mrs. Guillen, Vanessa's mother. And I told her that we're going to fix these issues and change the culture that allowed them to happen. I told her...
Okay, so he mentions that he spoke to her and his mouth goes real tight. That's stress. So as he goes into more detail about telling her, talking about it, there's no more stress in the mouth. So that tells us that that situation with her, the death of Vanessa, that's the stress. The situation is what's bothering him, not anything else. There's no anger. There's no disgust. Whereas the other guy, as we watched him, he was pretty much tight-lipped after everything he was talking about because it bothered him.
We must and will provide a safe and secure environment for American sons and daughters that serve in the Army. As the Secretary said, we are holding leaders accountable, and we will fix this. Tomorrow, we are briefing the Army senior leaders on this report, and we will ensure it is understood, and our plan to move forward will be implemented throughout the Army. We have been trusted to lead the world's greatest soldiers. It is our sacred duty to protect our soldiers so we can defend our nation. That is what we do. Thank you.
Yeah, I stand by that.
I don't want to reflect society in these type of issues. I want to make sure that we have a environment where everyone is treated with dignity and respect and everyone takes care of each other, and we expect our leaders to do that, and that's what we're going to do.
And we have time for one final question.
I will say he's very scary looking, just like those poor women that have resting bitch faces, and they get the backlash of it. He's got resting asshole, and it's worked for him.
If you haven't already, you should definitely check out Odyssey. It's a censorship-resistant platform, and it's growing quickly, so you should also find other content creators that you follow are on there as well. It's also similar to YouTube in that you can click the follow button and then click the bell to receive notifications of new videos. A lot of you have already moved over, and that's great, but if we could get to 100k subscribers, we're going to celebrate by releasing this video of Robert F. Kennedy, which I personally think is probably the most interesting video Mandy's ever done, at least in my opinion. And will be free to watch for everybody on Odyssey. Another great thing is, when you watch videos there, you will receive a daily watch reward, and that's in the form of a library token. Now you can save those up and use it to spend on exclusive content, or if you happen to see a video that you really like and you think it's important that people get to see more of it, you can place a support, and that will give the content creator a tip, but it'll also make it more discoverable on the platform so that more people see it. And as we increasingly see hot topics being censored, I think that's particularly important. And for those reasons, you'll find we actually post more free content over at Odyssey than we do here. If you don't have an account at Odyssey yet and you want to help support this channel, you can use the referral link in the pinned comment below.